Hi everyone, welcome to the 2021 Math and AI for Girls ceremony. Please keep your cameras on, we'd love to see your faces, and please keep yourself muted. Now sit tight, we have a fun and interactive awards ceremony planned for you today. Before we begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Natalie Shell. I'm a junior in high school, as well as the founder of Math and AI for Girls. Like many of you, I have participated in a lot of math and STEM competitions. In middle school, I represented Connecticut at the Math Counts Nationals. I'm also a Maria Mirzakhani Award winner for being one of the top 5 AMC 10 female students in New England. I'm also a national level winner for the NC WITS Technology Competition. In addition to competitions, I've participated in numerous research summer programs. These include Stanford's AI for All program for girls going into 10th grade and Stanford's Math Research Program, SUMAC. I'm also doing metamaterials physics research at Harvard University, and later on this summer, I will participate in MIT's RSI program. And my love of all things STEM has led me to create Math and AI for Girls, a nonprofit organization, something I wish existed when I was your age. The goal of this organization is to help girls achieve success at the highest levels in math and AI, offering access to resources that can help them on their math and/or AI journey. Math and AI for Girls' website includes information on many of the programs and competitions I previously mentioned, and more. Of course, this website also includes information on this competition, which brings us to our wonderful and generous sponsors. Thank you to the CT Technology Council, AI for All, and Automation Anywhere for sponsoring this competition. And our biggest thanks goes to Hewlett Packard Enterprise, HPE, who have supported this competition in every way possible, especially today's event. So here is what we have planned for you today. The award ceremony should last just over an hour. First of all, we have my introduction, which we're halfway through already. See, time flies when you're having fun. Next, we will hear from Sonali Parekh, the Senior Vice President of Corporate Development and Investor Relations at HPE, followed by a recorded message from the CEO of HPE, especially for all of you. Then we'll have a fun interactive activity which all contestants can participate in, and you'll have the chance to test your math skills and win a prize. Parents, I don't think I have anything for you this time round, but you can give moral support to the contestants. For this activity, I strongly recommend that you have a separate device with internet access ready, such as a phone or tablet. Afterwards, we will switch gears and hear from Dr. Artie Garg, the head of advanced AI at HPE and a judge for this competition. We'll talk about her personal journey and answer some of your questions. Then I'll come back with fun activity part 2 with more prizes. I'm not going to give away too many details, but if you want to win, trust me, you should pay attention to today's ceremony. And finally, I'll give a brief closing.
Okay.
So why this competition? There are so few women in STEM at all levels. For example, on a macroscopic level, less than 30% of US doctorate degrees in math and statistics are awarded to women. Personally, I'm used to being surrounded by dudes at every competition and research program. And some of them have become my close friends. But the underrepresentation of women does lead to some unfortunate stereotypes. I remember my first time registering at a math circle, I was told that I was in the wrong place, that theater practice was in a different building. And many of you have shared similar experiences in your essays. Speaking of your essays, here's a word cloud generated from your essays. Some of the most frequently used words are obviously math, STEM, and science, but I also noticed words relating to personal growth, like hope, learning, future, and passion. But the word that stood out to me the most was community. This is one of the reasons why we organize this competition. So you can create a community and continue to support and encourage each other. Now, something tells you that you guys like numbers. So let's switch from words to numbers. During the competition window, there were over 5,000 unique visitors on the Mathanae for Girls competition website. That, in turn, led to 300 plus girls starting drafts for the competition. But I received feedback that the problem set was very challenging and a good proportion of contestants dropped out. So no matter how you did in this competition, you succeeded just by submitting. Research has shown that girls are more risk adverse. They won't compete if they feel that they won't do well. So I want to congratulate all of you on your tenacity and perseverance. You are the 133 girls who pulled through and submitted entries. Now, speaking of your tenacity, there are many brave young contestants from 5th and 6th grade, which is great to see. Geographically, you guys come from over 20 different states. And let's have a special shout out to the state with the most contestants. Connecticut, my home state, followed closely by New Jersey, California, New York, and Texas. And you guys are incredibly talented. Many of you have participated in STEM competitions. In particular, 17 of you qualified for the American Invitational Math Examination, aka AMY, this year. We also have multiple USAJMO qualifiers and multiple Math Counts Nationals participants. Many of you mentioned MIT as your dream school, and based on your accomplishments, I can definitely see why. A lot of you also expressed a strong interest in having a career in STEM, which brings us to our first guest speaker. I'd like to introduce Sonali Parekh, Senior Vice President of Corporate Development and Investor Relations at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Sonali is an accomplished leader with over 25 years of experience in the technology, media, and telecommunication industries, both as an advisor and a senior executive. Prior to working at HPE, Sonali held senior positions at Barclays and Goldman Sachs. She is a strong supporter of women in technology. And now I'd like to turn it over to Sonali.
Thank you very, very much, Natalie, for those opening remarks. It's amazing how your passion just comes across. So first and foremost, I want to congratulate you all for being here today and for participating in this trailblazing competition. I am so proud of all of you for challenging yourselves and striving for more. You are also now a member of a community of strong and incredibly talented young women who will go on to do great things, possibly in the field of STEM or AI, or wherever you decide you will have the most impact. My ask of you is to remember the importance of that community and to continue to nurture it as you progress through your studies and life. I say that for a very personal reason. As someone who spent most of my career in heavily male-dominated environments, be it investment banking, telecoms, and even today in technology, I often found myself the only woman in the room, often in a boardroom, which at times intimidated me from speaking up. It can get lonely out there, and I have felt that loneliness at various parts of my career, particularly the more senior I have become. But you are all changing that by putting yourselves out there and choosing to take risks, choosing to be bold, choosing to be heard. Keep on doing that. And better yet, encourage your girlfriends and sisters and cousins to do the same. As women, we need to make sure we have our seat at the table. To quote one of my all-time heroes, the late, great RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, women need to be in places where decisions are being made. Anyone who's been in my office will know that I keep a framed copy of that quote on my desk. I love my job as a senior executive running corporate development, mergers and acquisitions, and investor relations at one of Silicon Valley's pioneering companies. I have found a role where I have impact and where I can be my authentic self, which I bring to work every day. I wish the same for all of you. Don't settle for less. When Natalie first came to me with the idea of math and AI for girls, I was blown away by her passion. Anyone who has met Natalie or heard her speak of her own experiences as a young girl with a love for math, STEM, and AI, and a desire to share that would agree with me. Anybody who meets Natalie wants to get involved with her project. I couldn't help but be inspired. But more than that, I couldn't help but see the opportunity to accelerate her vision. I knew this was the right project for me and for HPE, where diversity, inclusion, and using science and technology as a force for good is at the heart of everything we do. You will hear it soon straight from our CEO, Antonio Neri. He is so proud to be sponsoring such an important initiative. And although we compete fiercely with other tech companies over customers and market share, one thing all large and small tech companies agree on is the importance of data, AI, and machine learning, and what it will play in our future. We are living through a data revolution, or as Antonio, our CEO, coined, the age of insights. And women need to be a part of this conversation. Otherwise, we will risk not being represented and once again left behind. We cannot afford to let this happen. Society cannot afford to let this happen. Now, I don't want to leave you with the feeling that there is pressure on you to perform this task alone. I want you to leave here seeing the enormity of the opportunity ahead of you. In this era of disruption, you are the disruptors. Finally, I want to thank Natalie for her vision and for giving us the opportunity, and for me, the opportunity as a female leader in the field of technology to be a part of this movement. This is a movement. It's not a moment, it's a movement. And I am honored and humbled by what I have seen from this group of women. I also want to thank all of the people who work tirelessly behind the scenes to make Natalie's vision a reality. With special thanks to Stacy Wilk, another inspiring tech executive who drove this project cradle to grave with equal parts passion, grit, and grace. We could not have got here without you. I also want to thank Dr. Artie Garg, who you will hear from shortly, again, for bringing her own special contribution like none of the rest of us could have brought. She actually is living and breathing the AI dream. And finally, to Henri Niehaus, who also played a very special role in getting this over the line. Something like this doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and commitment. Now, as we move on to the awards section of the ceremony, I want to tell you that we were all overwhelmed by the quality of your submissions. Thank you once again for taking a risk and choosing to be part of the conversation. I will close with a quote from the late Eleanor Roosevelt, which has been a bit of a mantra for me throughout my professional career. And it's the opposite of playing it. Please do one thing every day that scares you. And with that, I will hand over for the next part of our session. And that will be to introduce our CEO, the CEO of Hewlett Packard Enterprise, Antonio Neri, who will share his remarks with you now. Thank you.
Hello, I am Antonio Neri, President and CEO of Hewlett Packard Enterprise. At HPE, we know that diverse teams make better teams, and that's why we are proud to sponsor today's competition. I want to start off by congratulating each of you for being here. You have already done the most difficult part. You have put in the time to study, practice, and master your skills. I cannot wait to see the results of your hard work. However, it is not all about winning competitions. It is about nurturing and pursuing a love for math and technology. As a CEO, it is incredibly exciting to see the next generation pushing for better for their education and for themselves. I am incredibly proud of each of you for participating and choosing to do something that is not easy. And I hope after today's events, you continue to challenge yourselves by showing up for competition like this one and learning even more about STEM. The opportunity this field can bring to you if you just hold on to your relentless curiosity and desire to learn are endless. With that, I wish each of you good luck, and I hope you enjoy today's event.
Thank you so much to Sonali and Antonio Neri for your inspiring messages to all of us. And now for our first interactive activity. Now we get to see the podium. In third place, we have Silalitha with a score of 9,200. And second place is Reese. Now drum roll, please. Congratulations to Ashani Agarwal. You have won a $25 Amazon gift card. Now let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Artie Garg, Head of Advanced AI Solutions and Technologies at HP. She holds a PhD in physics from Harvard and an MS in aeronautical and astronautical engineering from Stanford. She has worked for the White House, where she oversaw R&D investments at the Department of Energy. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Garg.
Thank you. So, did you know that boys are just as good at math as girls? That's something I've been telling my daughter, who just finished first grade, since she was a baby. The reason that I say this to her is because, sadly, I feel that girls still sometimes receive too many messages that you are the ones who are different than regular people in math and science. And I wanted to give her a little bit space to grow up knowing that the kind of person who liked in math and science was a person just like her. Because I think when you're little, if you're a little bit like me, you probably aren't really thinking, or at least until maybe middle school, about whether things like, are there enough girls in science and math? You just think about how much you love doing science and math. I suspect some of you can probably relate to some of my own childhood. My dad tells me that when I could barely walk, anytime he took his tools out to fix something in the house, I would toddle over to him and grab the screwdriver out of his hand and try to fix it myself. When I was 7 years old, I asked for a telescope for my birthday, and I dreamed of one day traveling to space as an astronaut. By high school, all I wanted was to become an astrophysicist, so I could unlock the mystery of how our universe came into being. And maybe I also wanted to still travel to space. At the same time, though, and probably right around when I was about your ages, I started receiving other messages about math and science. And I started somehow to hear this notion that maybe scientists, engineers, and mathematicians were in some way different than I was, that maybe they were more likely to be boys and men, and that they didn't like dolls or dresses, which I actually liked, and they didn't waste their time with things like Shakespeare or theater, which are both things that I studied in college. And I started to wonder, even though I knew I loved science and I was completely passionate about it, was I the right kind of person to become a scientist? Because I didn't know about any scientists who were quite like me. Well, lucky for me, I had teachers and professors and mentors who told me I was just the kind of person who should, just the right kind of person who should become a scientist. They taught me, and what I would most love to share with all of you is that there is no right way to be a scientist, technologist, or a mathematician. At every stage of my education, I sometimes found myself wondering, am I a right fit? Because some of my peers are so different, they're so unlike me. But I always perpetually received feedback from my mentors that I was pursuing science for the best possible reason. I was pursuing it because I loved it and I could do it. For me personally, that's been an incredibly freeing and inspiring message, because it's allowed me to pursue science in the ways that feel right to me without worrying about whether it makes sense to someone else. It meant that I could direct plays in college and still study physics. It meant that I could move to Washington, D.C. and become a policy analyst and advisor in the White House and still be a scientist. And it meant that after spending some time in Washington, I could move back to California and become a data scientist and now an AI technology leader. And I can also serve in my city government and teach scientists and engineers around the country how they can do the same thing. I'm sharing these details because I've read several of your essays, and you are all so incredibly talented and passionate. And one thing that struck me is you all have such diverse interests. You are budding scientists and mathematicians and engineers, but you are also artists, musicians, dancers, writers, chess players, athletes, and community leaders. And I didn't even capture all of the things I read about. Yes, I know you're all still figuring out who you want to be, but in so many ways, the interests you are already expressing and demonstrating show who you are. And I know from my own personal experience, right about now in your lives and in your schooling, you're starting to wonder whether there's something else you should be doing. And you're going to start hearing more and more from people just like me who think we know the answer. We might tell you things like you should do this extracurricular activity because that'll really demonstrate that you're interested in science and math. Or maybe we'll just start telling you that, yeah, you should become a scientist or engineer because we need more girls in these fields. But the truth is, everything we tell you is going to be informed by what we think should happen. And it's going to be based on our own understanding of the world. It is important to me and to all of us at HPE that girls like you decide to study math and science, because the world really does need people like you, just like you, to become scientists and engineers. But that's what I think should happen. That's not why you should study science and math. You should study math and science for only one reason, because you love it and you can do it.
Dr. Garg, what inspired you to work in the AI field in the first place?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say I came to AI by way of my passion and interest for physics. And I think you will find that a lot of life is about serendipity. In my case, I happened to be pursuing my PhD in physics at pretty much the exact moment when telescopes were starting to generate such data volumes that they were too large to be analyzed in traditional ways. And so to me, it seemed only natural that maybe we needed some kind of automated way to analyze the data and teach computers to recognize patterns in astrophysical data that previously really only very experienced and trained astronomers could do. Interestingly enough, my PhD advisor wasn't quite sure that we would be able to do this, but he let me try, so I did, and we were able to do it. At that time, the term data scientist didn't even exist, and I didn't know until many years later that what I was doing was considered a form of AI. So in the end, I ended up in the field of AI before I even knew what it was.
Great, great. What are some of the projects that you work on day to day? Can you just tell us about one or two?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I don't think I knew that a job like what I have today existed when I was all of your ages. But if I think about it, there's kind of two key things I do in my work at HPE. One of them is to evaluate new AI technologies, and the other is to design new technology solutions. I can talk a little bit more about either of those if you guys are interested in hearing what it's like to do that in a company. Stacy, should I go into one of those?
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about one of those? We've got some questions coming in from the audience, but
Okay.
I'd love to hear more.
Sure. Yeah. So maybe I'll start with talking, evaluating new AI technologies, because I think in some ways it can sound very futuristic to say the least, but really it's pretty straightforward in a lot of ways. So one of the things I do in my role is actually try to understand what's happening out in the startup community and the research community. So I would say I probably meet with sometimes 1 to 2 new AI startups or researchers a week, and I try to learn about what they're doing. For the ones that seem both the most interesting and the most relevant to what we do at HPE, I have a team of engineers, and we work to test out and make sure these new technologies do what they claim that they do. And then this is the part I really love about my work, is we try to figure out how to make them useful to solving real world problems by doing things like talking to end users and kind of help bridge between AI, which can seem very esoteric to a lot of people, and real world applications. So just a quick example, biologists and chemists at pharmaceutical companies right now are trying to use AI to accelerate, make it easier to discover new kinds of medicines and the chemistries that might attack new diseases, including some of the work that's been done to identify medications that could treat, say, the coronavirus or COVID-19. And these people are experts in biology and chemistry, not necessarily AI. So part of what I try to do is understand what they're trying to do and what they're not able to do, and then understand what new AI technologies can do and figure out how these two things can work together to solve a problem like discovering new medicines.
Very cool. Gabby Adati is asking a great question. How do you incorporate your physics education into AI?
Well, it's actually interesting because I think a lot of the work that's currently being done in AI is being driven by physicists. I'm not sure of the statistics, but I actually believe that many of the leading AI researchers have backgrounds in physics. I'm totally biased, but I think physics is one of the best things to study because you learn math, you learn programming, and you learn really, I think most importantly, how to break a problem down to its fundamentals, to its essence, ask questions about what's really happening and in the most simple way possible. So what's the least complicated way I can describe and address a problem? And so I don't really think that there's a day or a way in which I'm not using my physics education as part of my current job.
Got it. Got it. We have a couple of questions that are all along the same kind of theme. Emily Bordolato is asking, how did people discourage you and how did you overcome that discouragement? Shara Baldi wants to know what challenges you faced along your journey and are you still continuing to face any? And Jessie Shang is asking, did you ever doubt yourself back then because there were few girls working in the math and AI field? And they're all kind of related. So can you kind of speak to some of that?
Yeah, I think that it definitely can be isolating to feel like you're the only person like you in anywhere, in any job, in any community, in any classroom. And I will share, I was the only girl in my AP chemistry class in high school. And even today, and even though at HPE we really, really try to reach out to girls, there's just not as many girls in math and AI. And so it's very common for me to be the only woman in a conversation, in a discussion, a technical discussion, even today. And I think that I think the hard part is it's less likely today that you'll hear outright discouragement. Sometimes, and I've experienced something similar to what Natalie described, where I was in the physics building and people asked me if I was lost. So sometimes those kinds of things that are a little bit more overt happened. But I think the bigger thing that becomes common, this is why I really wanted to share with you what I share with my daughter, is just feeling like you're the only person like you. And that starts to just lead you to think, maybe it means I don't belong because everybody else seems more similar to each other than they do to me. And I think that's why at the end of the day, it can be hard. I'm not saying that it's easy to be the only person like you in the room. And I think if you're doing something you love and that's the reason you're doing it and you're doing it in the way that you love it, it makes it a little easier to be the only person in the room because you know that you're doing it for the reasons that make you passionate and you want to be in that room. I mean, there was nothing that was going to keep me out of a physics classroom, frankly, because I wanted to learn that stuff. And that's really probably the biggest tool you have in your toolbox to overcome challenges is you want to get to the other side.
Is that the advice you'd give to your middle school age self if you had to do it all over again?
Yeah, well, actually, I would say that one other piece of advice I would give, because Honestly, you all are so talented. I mean, I was just blown away by reading some of your essays. And I will say the best piece of advice I ever got, because you're going to have amazing opportunities, I think, in the coming years of your life and your careers, is whenever you have to make a decision, look at all your options and then just pick the one you're the most excited about. And don't think too hard about what will happen next. And just for some context, this is advice that I got from Bruce Alberts, who is a pioneer in the field of DNA replication, and who I got to know and became my mentor because I just decided in the middle of my PhD program to take time off to do a policy fellowship. I had no idea what that would lead to eventually working in the White House. And so I think the most important thing is, yes, think about what you want to do and be in the future, but you really can never predict how stuff will turn out. So don't try too hard to game the next steps. Do what you feel is right now, and trust that you will do the right thing for you.
Great advice. For the sake of time, I think we're just going to take one more question, and it comes from Rina Bagwadi. What is the most interesting part of your job?
Yeah, I think the most interesting part of my job, on the one hand, it's just I get to be constantly learning. I'm constantly learning about the new stuff that everyone else in the world is learning about, and being on the cutting edge of technology and learning about technologies before they're really even out in the world. That I love to learn. I spent a lot of time in school, and so now I get paid to just learn new stuff. But at the same time, I get to do it, and I think this is so important. I get to do it with people I really like being around, and colleagues that I think are fun, I think are smart, I think are good people, and I think are passionate people. And I think that the best job in the world, if you weren't doing it with people you wanted to be with, might not be that great.
Yeah, it's a long time to spend of your life with people you don't like or doing something you don't love. Never stop learning. That's my key takeaway. So Dr.
Yes.
Garg, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming to speak with us and answering a few questions. And let me hand it at this point back over to Natalie.
Thank you so much, Dr. Garg, for all of your words. Thank you to Stacy as well for monitoring the questions. And thank you to everyone for being such an attentive audience. In third place, we have Yunso Ha.
Yay.
Second place is Shani Agarwal. And our winner is, drum roll please, Sophia. Congratulations for getting 10 out of 12. Also, congratulations to our runner-up, Isabella and Joanna. So as you guys may know, this is now the moment which we've all been waiting for, the announcement of the winners. So here's a quick explanation of the award categories, because it is a little bit complicated. We'll begin with the Rising Star Awards, given to 6 younger contestants. Following the Rising Stars, we'll have the Honorable Mention, which is from 21st through 50th. Next, we will announce the High Honors Recipient, which is those who place between 11th and 20th. Finally, we will announce 4th through 10th place, followed by the top 3 participants. Let's do this. Now, first of all, we'll begin with the Rising Star Award. It's given to the 3 highest scoring 5th and 6th graders who are not in the top 50. These girls impress judges by showing tremendous promise, and they will each receive a swag bag. Swag bag, you guys may recall this. It was in the Kahoot, and it was in the problem set. Here are the items that will be in the swag bag. And now I'd like to invite Henry Niehaus from the corporate development team of HPE to announce the Rising Stars.
Right, the first winner is Emily, can you all hear me? Bortolato from New Jersey in 5th grade. Then it's Satya Daftur from Connecticut. Then Kennedy Du from Connecticut as well. And 6th graders is Emma Bialowas from Texas. And then Emma Mao from Connecticut. And then Tiffany Tian from New Jersey. Congratulations, all of you, 5th and 6th graders.
Thank you, Andrea, and congratulations to all of our rising stars. Now we will announce the honorable mention. This is given to girls who scored in the top 50, impressing us with their passion and ability. They will each receive a swag bag as well. Congratulations to all of you. Now we will announce high honors. These girls placed between 11th and 20th, deeply inspiring judges with their passion and ability. They will each receive a swag bag in addition to $50 cash prize. And now I'd like to invite HP's former Director of Inclusion and Diversity, Stacy Wilk, to announce the high honors recipients.
Thanks, Natalie. So first we have Catherine Zhu, a 7th grader from Iowa. Cindy Wang, a 7th grader from Illinois. Daria Bondarenko, a 7th grader from New Jersey. Hillary Shi, a 7th grader also from New Jersey. Ivy Guo, an 8th grader from Maryland. Jessie Zhang, a 5th grader from New Jersey. Amazing. Maggie Bai, an 8th grader from Illinois. Selena Gee, a 5th grader from Massachusetts. Snigdha Mohanraj, an 8th grader from Connecticut. And Vaidehi Ramachandrula, a 7th grader from Wisconsin. Congratulations to all of you ladies.
Indeed, congratulations to all the high honors recipients. Once again, you will receive a swag bag and $50 cash prize. Now for the top 10. These 10 girls went truly above and beyond, submitting clear and concise problem sets, as well as essays expressing extraordinary accomplishments, vision, and leadership. First, I will announce 4th through 10th place in alphabetical order. They will each receive a swag bag in addition to $100 cash prize. Now we have Anastasia Lee, 8th grade from New York. Andrea Chen, 8th grade from New Jersey. Anika Rajaram, 7th grade from California. Chinmay Goyal, 8th grade from New York. Ishani Agarwal, 8th grade from California. A special shout out to Ishani for being one of our Kahoot winners. Next, we have Selalita Kodokula, 8th grade from Florida. And finally, we have Yunso Ha, 8th grade from Alabama. Did you manage to read everyone's bios? If so, that's very impressive. But we'll put this presentation on the Math and AI for Girls website for anyone who didn't quite manage to read the bios and wants to revisit the presentation. Now, before we disclose the top 3, I have one more announcement. I purposely made the problem set very challenging. And though there were a few very high scores, we only had one single perfect score on the problem set. After discussing with the judges, we all agreed that she deserves a special award, which is our newly created computation award, which comes with $100 cash prize. Now I'm proud to announce that the winner of this award is Chinmay Goyal. Congratulations. All right, now let's welcome back Sonali Parekh to announce the top 3.
Thank you, Natalie. So in third place, our winner will receive $300 in cash, a mini drone provided by one of our sponsors, Automation Anywhere, and a swag bag. I am pleased to announce our third place winner is Advika Asthana, a 5th grader from Texas, one of our youngest competitors. Congratulations, Advika.
Despite being one of the youngest competitors, she has wowed the judges with her accomplishments and passion. Advika has worked as a TA for a professor and served numerous leadership roles in her own community. Her proactiveness, dedication, and ability are truly inspiring.
Our second place winner will receive $500 in cash, a mini drone, and a swag bag. I am pleased to announce our second place winner is Kira Lewis, an 8th grader from New York. Kira scored exceptionally well on the problem set. However, what stood out most about Kira from our judges' perspective was her extensive interest and experience in coding. Kira's simple neural network, which she built from scratch, was particularly impressive. She is a great candidate for this prize because of her innovation, creativity, and a word that keeps coming up over and over, passion. Congratulations, Kira. And finally, our first place winner will receive a cash prize of $1,000, a mini drone, and swag bag. And I am pleased to announce the winner of this year's Math and AI for Girls competition is Amritha Praveen, a 6th grader from Illinois. The judges were incredibly inspired by Amritha's dedication to assisting the neurodivergent community. Amrita shows initiative. She's created her own iOS app, which uses machine learning to help kids with executive functioning challenges. Amrita is unbelievably dedicated and passionate to all the causes she believes in. Congratulations on behalf of all of us, Amrita, for this truly, truly well-deserved first prize. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to Amrita and to today's winners and all of the participants. Let's have a round of applause for all of you. And that concludes today's award ceremony. Now let's thank our judges, Dr. Lisa Yin and Dr. Artie Garg. Let's also thank our sponsors, particularly Sonali Parekh and Stacy Wilk from HPE, Nidhi Mehta Shukla, co-founder of Automation Anywhere, and our volunteers, Angela Zhang and Sarah Lee. Additional thanks goes to Dan Plotnick from Bergen County Math and Mr. Guzman from the All Saints Catholic School for all of your enthusiasm. We will be in touch with the winners to confirm their addresses, and we will notify you about future events. If you have any suggestions, questions, or feedback about the award ceremony or the competition in general, you can reach out to the Math and AI for Girls email. Additionally, this presentation and the recording will soon be posted on the Math and AI for Girls website. Thank you to all of the participants for inspiring all of us at Math and AI for Girls. Have a great evening.
Great job, Natalie. Thank you.